Hi, everyone, for joining us today as we highlight the resilience, dedication, and achievements of those who have served our nation. I'm Latisha Holmes, your host for Combat Booster Red Bottoms, and I am very excited to chat with three amazing guests today. So let's get to it. My first guest is Apostle Andrea Foster, but a lot of people know her as Chaplain Foster, and I am so excited to have her today. Hi, Chaplain Foster.
How are you? Good to be
I'm
here.
I'm great. I have a special place in my heart for chaplains.
Good, good.
So listen, I know I can talk to you all day long. I have many questions, but I'm not
Okay,
going to go down that road. First, I want to know a little bit about your background and how you got connected with the military.
okay. I came a roundabout way. Small town girl from Stilton, Pennsylvania, little town between Harrisburg and Philly, and didn't know what I wanted to be in high school. Very artistic by nature, and so I asked about a career in dentistry. I wanted to be a dental technician. And they talked me out of it because they said dental techs work in, this was back then, the dental techs work in cinder block buildings with no windows and that I
Oh,
wouldn't see
okay.
people. So I switched to dental assisting. And because back then I thought you had to be a nerd and really smart to go to college. So I went to a tech school for dental assisting, graduated first in my class, and realized I had the potential to go to college. And so I was recruited by the Army Reserves at the time because there was a shortage of dental personnel. So they went into the civilian sector and began to look at persons already trained so the Army did not have to train them. And so I went into the CAS program, which is called the Civilian Acquired Skills Program. So I went to
Mhm.
basic training for 3 weeks. I went in as an E3, came out as an E4. Absolutely loved dentistry and wanted to be a dentist. And I couldn't go any further than E5. And I had enough foresight at that time to realize this is a good retirement plan. So I went to officer candidate school and got commissioned as a quartermaster officer.
Really? You know
Yes,
what?
yes.
I was not expecting that. I was not. I mean, you have such a gift and you're such a dynamic speaker and you're truly a voice for the kingdom. And it's like you just walked right into chaplaincy. You're a
Yep.
natural. So I would have never guessed that you were a dentist or even wanted to even fiddle around with anybody's teeth. So-
Well, I love dentistry. In fact, another hygienist and I, um, we went to Howard, got our 2 year degree, went to Maryland, got our 4 year degree, and then we practiced. I was a dental hygienist for about 22 years. And
wow.
then my girlfriend and I, we were both going to dental school to be dentists, and God began to call me into ministry. So she went to dental school and I went to seminary. And even in the military, um, uh, the let's see, Michelle is saying something here. Okay,
Oh, you said that in the military you did what? When
so
you was transitioning over into dentistry?
I was a quartermaster officer, acting commander, battalion S4, supply and logistics officer. So when I began to be called into ministry, I switched over to the chaplain candidate program. And that's a
Oh, okay.
program while you're getting your seminary degree and pursuing ordination. So I was a candidate in the chaplain corps. And then once you meet the requirements of a Master of Divinity and ordination, then they will commission you as a chaplain.
Oh man, what kind of how was that experience? Like, did you enjoy? Did you and what did you like most about going through the chaplain candidacy school?
I found a good fit for me. Um,
Really?
that because I love ministry. And
Mm-hmm.
so faith has always been a part of who I am. And so to be able to do it in the military uniform, it was not hard work for me. And there was an integrity there that people looked for. And I was in a command that had some challenges, I'll say. And
Okay.
oftentimes persons wanted me to go along, and I would often say to the generals, to the colonels, that I'm sorry, but this cross on my uniform is who I am. It's not just the ornament. So when it came to integrity, speaking up for the troops, they knew that Chaplain Foster was going to tell the truth.
I love that. I love that because a lot of times I've noticed that in the chaplaincy, you are the voice for those who really don't have a voice, especially those junior soldiers that, are just trying to make it day by day. There's so many challenges and they feel like they don't
Absolutely.
have, a voice to really speak up and be an advocate for themselves. So I commend you on that, Chaplain Foster.
Thank
That's
thank you.
just, you can tell it is a labor of love for you.
Well, and part of it, I think oftentimes it's better if an officer has been enlisted.
Oh yes. That when you said that, I was like, yes, she's my girl.
Because having been enlisted, I know what it's like. And I think that made me a better officer.
Yes, yes. Well, I have many people on the show. I talk to many people, and sometimes they were different, but I'm all for it. OCS, if you were an enlisted person before, it's like you have that connection, It's like just something inside of you just connected to those junior enlisted soldiers and the challenges that they face that others cannot connect with.
And the challenge on average, and you may know this, is that most chaplains are basically pastors and BDUs. Most of them do not have line unit experience. And so I served with 5 white men, and I was the only one with line unit and enlisted experience. So there's a
Look at
lot
that.
of things that they would say to them, and I would say, For example, I'll give you an example. My colonel said he needed a new stapler. And he said, Chaplain Foster, they would not give me one. I went down to headquarters, they would not give me one. I said, that's not acceptable. I said, the sergeant at that desk should have taken his stapler off his desk and given it to you, and he go find another one. And he
Mhm.
said, really? And I said, that's the way it works.
Look at that. You were teaching them something.
Yes, yeah. I had to help him.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Chaplain Foster.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned being, the only, you were the only, were you the only female that was in your unit, or were you the only black female there? Because you mentioned that you were there with five white men officers, right?
Yes, yes.
How was that?
So
Was
I
there
was
any unique challenges?
Um, so historically, I was the second female and the first African American female chaplain in the 200-year history of the DC National Guard. And
Wow.
and the relationship, it took them a while to understand the culture, but we're like brothers now. In fact, the state chaplain, I was his pulpit supply for over 12 years. He would do his church calendar. He would say, Andrea, I'm going to be out of town. I want you to come and substitute preach for me. And 3 or 4 times a year, I would preach at his local church for him. And we became the closest of friends. Yes.
That,
We
that
were a
was
real team. Yeah.
that's wonderful. Is
Yeah.
there any, I'm poking at you for one thing, and I just want you to bring it up because I think it's just so amazing. Is there any major accomplishment that you are known for in the DC National Guard? Come on now.
Well, that's one.
That's
And
one.
that's one, being the first Black female and preaching. Because I'm preaching at some of my soldiers, their local churches. I'm marrying their children. This past summer, I married one of my sergeant major's daughter because
Oh,
she was a little girl when I was in command.
mhm.
And And people knew me because I was a line officer. So they knew I was no nonsense. I'm a people person, but when it comes to doing ministry, I'm not playing. This is
I heard
serious.
that. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I love that. So it's safe to say that your faith has been a major part of not just your life, but also your career.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. At this stage in my life, I thought I would be coasting, but God keeps adding more assignments. And so I'm like Job. He said that God has blessed me in the second half of my life even more than the first.
And
So
I'm thankful
I'm
for that
kind
too. Now, I got a question for you. So,
okay.
a lot of times, and you are connected, you understand how precious the NCO Corps is and enlisted soldiers are because you've been there. So, as a chaplain and as your in your career as an officer, is there any one moment or piece of advice that an NCO or enlisted soldier actually gave you that impacted your career?
Um, I think mostly when a person becomes an officer, oftentimes they think they're better. And so my guys would say, Chaplain, if you take care of the upper side and deal with the upper levels, we got your back. And that's the way, and we just had a partnership. So they could go out and do whatever, but when it came time to the mission, they weren't going to let me down. And I would stop people from messing with my soldiers. I said, no, you talk to me, you leave my soldiers alone. So we had a partnership. They said, ma'am, we'll teach you. As a lieutenant, we'll teach you, and then you'll be a good officer. And I allowed them to teach me as NCOs, how to navigate the system, how to work together. And once I learned, it was on and popping. Then we had a brother sister relationship, and they would go through the fire for me, and I would go through the fire for them.
Wow, I love that. I love that. I told you before, before we actually met on this platform, that I worked in the chaplaincy as a chaplain assistant, and I'm gonna tell you, being a back then we were called the unit ministry team. I'm telling my age
Team.
now.
That's what we were
And
called. That's what we were called.
yeah, we were the UMT, and you saw if you saw one, you saw the other. So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I got a chance to actually see and talk to see you speak, and when I found out you were a chaplain, I was like, I love her already. That's my girl. Listen, Chaplain Foster, I can talk to you all day. Is it anything that we've missed talking about today before we, pop smoke, as we say? Is it anything that you want to bring up? Anything that you're doing in the future? Come on, give us something. We want to
Well,
know what you got going on.
well, in the future, I just moved to Rock Hill, South Carolina, from Laurel, Maryland, and I'm planting a new church, moving more apostolically. I think that where we are in the kingdom, the church is limping because the apostle and the prophet is not in their rightful place, and God never intended for solo pastors to pastor. He gave a team in Ephesians chapter 4, 11, and 12. So he gave a team, a pastor, a prophet, apostle, teacher, evangelist to work together. And that's the type of prototype church that I'm going to start here in Rock Hill, South Carolina, taking out all the denominational stuff and let's get back to kingdom service. I'm a bishop candidate at this time. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Pray for me.
You
And
got it.
so in July-ish, I'll be consecrated as a bishop because I'm now the provincial leader over North and South Carolina states for Global United Fellowship.
Wow. Chaplain Foster, it is definitely an honor. You got me tearing up, actually. So it is definitely an honor to have you here. I hate to end this because I got other guests that are coming in, but I hope you
Yeah.
come back and share, some more time with me in this platform and in this seat. I really want to keep in contact with you and see
Okay.
what you're up to and be able to support you.
I would be honored. I would be honored. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to speak with you too. All right, everyone. Oh, but we have another guest that is coming up. It's been definitely a pleasure, and we thank Chaplain Foster for her service and everything, and continuing to serve. But our next guest that we have coming up is Miss Carla Ross. Miss Carla Ross. Hi, Carla.
Hi, beautiful.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day to you too. And thank you for your service, Miss Combat Boots to Red Bottoms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support always.
Now, so Carla, you and I have a sisterhood. We belong to a sisterhood of Combat Boots to Red Bottoms. We talk often. I just got a chance to see you speak at the Combat Boots to Red Bottoms conference this year. You were just freaking amazing. But everyone doesn't know you. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got connected to the military.
All right. Wow. What a story. So I grew up in Queens, New York. First of all, also, thank you for having me. This has
Oh,
been
you
an
are
honor and
welcome.
a pleasure.
You always, where I go, you go.
I just adore you. But I grew up in Queens, New York, and I actually wanted to be a choreographer growing up. And so I don't know if you remember Alvin Ailey. I was about 12 years old when he passed away. And I thought my dancing dreams were dashed on a rock. And fast forward, Judith Jamison just passed away. I actually took pictures with her about 5 years ago in DC. And so everything is coming back full circle. So hold that. But so I know, long story short, my mom remarried and moved us to Maryland in about 93, 94. And I met with my recruiter, who was still my friend to this day. When I was about 16 or 17. And so told me about the Army. And of course, I was like, are you crazy? I'm a woman. At the time, it was during the Clinton administration, So we were being pushed to, go to college and, get your degree and then work this job for 30 years. So long story short, at 17, I noticed I was in junior college at the time. I says I did not want to be what we called a super senior, which is you're at a 2-year college, but you're there for 4 and 5 years. So,
Right,
my
right.
recruiter was like, listen, you can actually get skill sets while you solidify your college education, the whole spiel. So I actually entered into the delayed entry program at 17. So I was technically prepared and slated to go to the military at that point. The turning point for me was when I was 19, when I realized this is going a lot slower than I projected. And I wanted to do something amazing and something great. And so my recruiter told me about the MOS Bible. I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, ask for it when you finish your ASVAB. Perfect. I looked through that book for about an hour. They had tried to get me to be a petroleum specialist. I said,
Oh,
that's
wow.
pumping gas. Then
Right.
air traffic controller, but they forgot I was smart. I says, wait a minute. Those guys have a high suicide rate, and the percentage and value in what you're paying them is not commiserating with the risk. So
Mhm.
I chose to be a topographic engineer, which is map making and satellite imagery reading, all that great stuff. And amazingly enough, all those transferable skill sets, even what I mentioned earlier, has helped me to be into the profession that I'm in as of today, 18 years later. Yeah.
Wow. That, you know what? That's amazing that what you went into in the military. Did you even think that that was going to being a map maker? We call y'all map makers in the
Yeah.
Army. So did you think that that would transition into the civilian sector like it did for you? Because
Uh,
you're in a completely different field using those skills.
Yes, I did not know it would do that for this particular profession, but I knew going in, I wanted to have something that I could go out of the military and become a civilian and utilize. And then
Mhm.
I just knew in the back of my mind, when you have a military serviceman on your team, you already know that there's a higher level of a chance that they're disciplined, that they're structured, and that there's so many transferable skill sets that we have that you don't get just coming out of college that gives us a leg up. And so I thank God for the wherewithal to give me that at 19 with no children, no husband, no nothing, to make sure I can have service done and come out to be who I am today.
Wow, which is an amazing woman. I am so honored to call you friend and sister.
Yes,
Um,
likewise.
so tell me a little bit about Map Your Glow.
Yes, absolutely. So, Map Your Glow. Obviously, I was thinking about what my next journey would be because my original business was Carla Sugar, and I focused on sugaring and facials and those things. But in this new branding, I wanted to make sure that everything that I've had accumulated in the military was still encompassed into what I'm doing now. And so, I'm a master esthetician of 18 years, and I said, well, I've been making maps for the Army. I now look at the skin as a map, and literally. And I've created different techniques to help me find out what's happening with everyone intrinsically so that they can start projecting their best face and put their best face forward from some extrinsic factors that we work on together. So everything's a transferable skill set. It's just a matter of what I did, which is, find what it is that you love, you're great at doing, and making sure that you implement everything that you've ever been through into making the greatest version of yourself, no matter what profession you choose to be in.
Wow, that's powerful. That's some powerful advice. When it comes to, young people in this climate that we're in now, in at our present time, if they were thinking about going into the military, what would be one piece of advice that you would give them?
Oh my, that's actually a topic very near and dear to my heart. My daughter's currently in junior ROTC, and no, actually ROTC, not junior. And she mentioned just recently that she's thinking of going ahead and going all the way into the military. And I'll give the advice I gave her, which is first, making sure that you have a plan for yourself. I know that you'll be giving yourself up to the military. It's a lot of time and a lot of years that are not even guaranteed to us. So
Mhm.
add yourself into that plan. Ensure that you have the proper information. Ask questions. If there's something that specifically that you're interested in, there's a profession and there's a job for it in the military. That's one thing I would definitely say to someone. It's not just infantry.
Right,
We have
right.
so many layers. The other part is really do some soul searching, because a lot of us have not been in a space where these kids today don't have the experience of commitment. We came from the Gen Xers where we were told to be able to have tenure at a place and have some staying power. Whereas now a veteran is someone who's been at a job for a year or 2 years, or
Right,
so.
right.
That's why I say, so search your soul, because this is not something that you can jump in and then just jump out and say, hey, I don't like this. There's levels to even receiving discharge papers for the military.
Mhm.
So having a team, having a support system, ask questions, and keep it streamlined to the plan. Because if you have a plan, you'll make a way. And if you have to divert from the plan, at least you have a springboard to launch off of, and you won't be whisked away to whatever anyone else wants you to do.
I love that. I love the fact that you said that to ask questions and to that there is something in the military that transitions into the civilian world. A lot of people really do not realize that, and that it is a commitment. It's more than just, you don't hear about when people are giving you advice about going into the military. You don't hear them say, hey, you just can't just leave,
Right.
It's like,
Right.
oh, I don't want to do this anymore. You can't just, it's not like I just quit my job.
Right.
um it's an oath that you take, and you have to really listen to the words of that oath. And it sounds like that you really listened to that in detail. You had a plan, and I love the advice that you gave your daughter.
Yes,
Now,
absolutely.
what are you doing? What are some events that you have coming? Do you have anything special that's coming up that's connected to Map Your Glow?
Of course I do. So I think, as the wonderful chaplain before me mentioned about Job's scripture, and basically saying that to bless this second half of my life being so blessed. So I'm 46 as of yesterday, and
No, don't even say
yes,
that.
yeah.
You are not.
Yes, 4 decades. I'm super grateful. Um, but I now have a wonderful partnership and location with a med spa that's also med spa and wellness spa. And they're located in Brookhaven area of Atlanta, Georgia. And we'll have a grand opening November 22nd from 7 to 10. You do have to RSVP for that. So whoever's interested, please just shoot me an email or hit me up on the IG in the direct message. And I'm just really excited about this partnership because I will be getting to go holistically with what I can do with the body. So while they may offer Botox, there are people who need that. There's a hyperbaric chamber that they also have to help with the oxygen, cell renewal, the injuries that you may have on your body, along with me doing my sugaring facials, hydrofacials, and making you make your plan for your skin pretty crystal clear and easy and practical. So I get a chance to really shine with all these modalities, and I'll also be learning. And that's the thing that sets me apart is I'm a lifelong student. So I'll never be obsolete.
What kind of services? Can you give us a list of some of the services that you offer at Map Your Glow?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of my popular services at the moment is a DPN removal, which is removing moles. A lot of my clients are finding themselves, I had a few of them on the side of my face at one point, having moles, and it actually takes 5 to 10 years off of your skin with having those removed. I do microneedling. I'm pretty much doing things that are more focused on retexturing and resurfacing the skin. I wasn't at first, but now I'm transitioning into that. All my facials are customized. And what that means is, yes, I can do a hydration facial. I can do an acne facial. But because there's so many different types and people like to choose for themselves, I like to actually feel more in tandem with our healing the skin. I said our because I get invested. So I make the facials customized. You choose, and I go through your skin analysis and let you know what I recommend. And we go from there and take care of your skin. And of course, the bread and butter is sugaring. Sugaring is a natural form of hair removal. It's an alternative to waxing and shaving. And I've done that for 18 years. And that's one of my favorite forms of hair removal. It does lead to permanency. It's not heated usually. And it only takes dead skin cells, which is a big thing because a lot of us have been shaving or waxing for many years, but we forget the skin underneath is still receiving a level of damage from heat, from removing and chafing in different ways. And so I wanted to look for the best way, and this was back in 2006, to remove hair, but you'll be happy with the skin underneath because at some point, if you have no hair growing, you want to make sure that the skin you're showing is showing its best version of itself.
Oh, I don't want any hair growing, honey. Except the hair on my head. Listen, I got a surprise for you.
You too.
I have a surprise for you. If you remember, we met. Everyone doesn't know this, but like I mentioned, Carla is in the. And I remember getting either a phone call or email, and I connected her with someone. I have someone here that I want you to see, and she hasn't seen in a very long time. So since she moved from the East Coast and took over Atlanta, so can we have our next guest to join us briefly so they get a chance to see each other?
Oh, goodness.
Here's Orlando. So Carla, tell us a story about how you met Orlando.
You have to remind me because I don't recall. Wait, is
Remember,
Orlando the one
Orlando was the one that brought you?
Yes. The meal and the coquito.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's you. It's so dark where you are.
So I wanted you guys to get a chance to actually see each other before we transition, and I get a chance to chat it up with Orlando. But yes. I remember, one of the things that we do in Combat Boots to Red Bottoms is whenever someone has a need, we try to connect resources together, no matter where we are. So if we have someone in the community, in our veteran community, that needs something, whether you're male or female or it's your family, what we try and do is get that to you. Now, it may take someone making a phone call across the nation and saying, hey, we have this situation. And it just happened that First Sergeant Orlando Torres was in the area where Carla was and was able to save the day. So Carla, it was just such a pleasure to have you here today. It's always wonderful to be able to see you. And it was doubly special to be able to hug you when I saw you this year. So please come back again and chat with us. But until then, everyone knows how to get in contact with you and continue to be great. Thank you for being here. And thank you for your service.
Thank you so much for your service, your love and support. And thank you for being the wonderful connector that you are. And thank you so, so, so much, Orlando. I'll never forget your kindness.
All right, Orlando. Okay, so look, this is my next guest. And this is Orlando Torres. So let me tell you a little bit about Orlando. Orlando is a retired first sergeant, but he's currently living it up in Florida. Now Orlando, Orlando, you're on mute, so we can't hear you. I know you like to be in the background. There you go. So Orlando, thank you so much for coming today. You have a very special place in my heart. We've been friends for a very long time. Well, we started off as friends, then enemies. No, I'm joking. You could tell that story. But thank you so much for being here, Orlando. What I want you to do is, a lot of people think that Combat Boots to Red Bottoms is just about females, and that's not the case. We are a community. You guys, you're a big supporter of Combat Boots to Red Bottoms. You're a big supporter of the veteran community, and you still do a lot within the active reserve and National Guard community. So tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you actually got connected to the military.
Okay, so first of all, happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day.
Veterans Day. So I was born in 1977.
Well, that's a long time. You started putting boots on there.
Very long time. I'm gonna tell the truth. You know how I am. I'm gonna tell the truth. So I was born in 1977. I was raised in Puerto Rico, and then my grandmother and I transitioned to New York. The reason why I say my grandmother is because my mother passed away giving birth to me. So I was raised by my grandmother. We moved in with my uncles, which is where I'm currently in right now in Florida with my uncles. And just like Carl and what he says, things go full circle. I will explain that to you at the end. But childhood was decent. I had a decent childhood. I cannot complain. Was a good student. Household, I was raised with cousins, and they were all military. Every single one.
Oh, wow. So you had like a front row view of the military.
So I did have a front row view, but they never spoke about the military.
Oh.
They never said anything that was going on. The only thing I knew is my cousins were in the military. My goals were to be an actor. I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be a model, but then all those options were taken away because my grandmother said, "You're too fat and ugly." So I guess the modeling and the dancing were gone. So
are you serious?
She told me the truth. She told me the hard truth. So with that being said, when I graduated from high school, I decided to work at a warehouse for about 2 years. During that time, I was going to seminary because I was really involved in the church. And one day I just decided I need a change in my life. I can't stay here working at this warehouse for 2.5 years. So at the age of 20, I decided to seek out a recruiter. And the recruiter talked to me, and I wish I would have done my research before. The first job that they offered me, I went ahead and took. And it's funny because I'm hearing all these other great speakers that you had, or people that you're interviewing. I ended up being the fuel handler. I ended up being the gas pumper. So I ended up getting that job. And after 5 years, I decided to transition to go into MI. And that was probably where I had one of my challenges, because when I was transitioning from going from being a fuel handler to MI, military intelligence, I still remember the first day when the battalion commander spoke to all the soldiers and said, we have some prior service here and they all come from some great jobs. But if you guys fail this course, you guys are going to become some of the worst individuals, like a gas pumper, infantry cook. And I'm thinking,
I'm already a gas pumper.
She called out my job. So when she had us all explain and say, hey, what's your MOS? And as soon as I said, ma'am, I'm that gas pumper that's going to change your mind and blow your mind because I'm going to pass this course, she looked at me and she said, okay, we'll see. And sure enough, I graduated from the course. So that was a challenging moment, but at the same time, it was a moment that I was proud of. Went through the ranks. Of course, had different experiences with leadership as
Mm-hmm.
I met a wonderful person in 2004 at Ford Meade, Maryland, which is you. You were my career counselor at that time. And
Oh, you're talking about me?
I'm talking about you. And we instantly clicked. You were amazing. But you did something to me that I will never forget, even though it wasn't your fault. It was somebody else's fault.
Oh no.
but,
Oh my
but that's a whole different story.
God.
But that's a whole different story. So my military career was pretty decent. Once I transitioned over to MI, I worked in those special 3 agent led agencies, the NSA, the NRO, different places like that. And I've had some great moments in the military, and I can't really complain about it.
What was one of the, you mentioned, now you just left me hanging and you said I did something, but it wasn't my fault.
It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your
It
fault.
wasn't my fault. I promise everybody it was not my fault.
It wasn't our fault, I promise.
So tell me a little bit about some of the is there any specific challenge as being a leader in a leadership position in the military that sticks out at you in your mind that you can tell us about and tell us how you overcame that?
Honestly, I think anybody that is an NCO or anybody that has been in a leadership position could actually relate to this. And it's the simple fact that in the military, when you're a leader, you're in charge of everybody. You're in charge of all your soldiers. So whatever actions or whatever things that they commit or any wrongdoings that they do falls back on you, regardless. So there were certain moments where I noticed that when I was a platoon sergeant, I remember my chain of command used to get upset with my squad leaders saying that they weren't taking care of their soldiers. So I would have to step in a lot of times and tell them, you're not going to do that to my soldiers. I got them. And the same thing happened when I became a first sergeant. So it almost seems like we have a tendency to tell leaders, hey, you're responsible. And then you hold them to a high standard, yet the people underneath them, of course, we try to hold them to a high standard as well, but they're not the ones that are getting slammed as much as the leader who's the middle person.
That goes back to something that Chaplain Foster said earlier. I loved how she connected. She was talking about her NCOs and how when she first came in the chaplaincy, they were like, hey, we're going to do this, and then we're going to take care of you, ma'am. And she took care of them, and they knew what their left and right limits were. And it seemed like they were able to come together and work when it came to those gray areas. They worked as a team. And I think that's very important. That's something that you don't always get that across the board while you're in the military. And that's a challenge for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's always about communication and understanding. A lot of times people will communicate, but they don't understand what the other person is doing, either due to cultural aspects or just the way somebody was brought up. It's totally different. So there's a lot of things you have to learn before you walk into the military.
So what is, I'm kind of curious, what is the funniest thing that has happened to you in the military? Like, is there any one thing that sticks out that you're like, or the most embarrassing thing? Because a lot of times we talk about all the challenges and all our accolades, but being in the military is actually fun when you have that camaraderie, or, your soldiers just do stuff and you're like, you have that one soldier that you're like, really? This is what you do? So can you think of any moment that you're like, that's something that makes you laugh, or that's a good moment for you?
I don't know if it was a fun moment, but it was like a shocking moment. Let's just say.
So is this PG-13?
Yeah,
okay.
we're going to try to keep it PG-13.
PG-13. Okay. All right.
So imagine yourself being a first sergeant and you have to do a walkthrough through the rooms. And yes, and it was just like, what are these soldiers doing? And that was it. So it was a embarrassing moment for me because I was also walking in with a female colonel.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, so
Oh,
when
wow.
they say, "First Sergeant, what's going on here?" It's like, okay. But yeah, that was probably the most embarrassing thing that I had to deal with, especially
The
looking at
room
her.
inspections were the most interesting, weren't they?
Yes.
The room inspection, because you never know what you were going to get. I remember doing a room inspection, and we opened the rooms were immaculate. They had the suites where they
Yes.
shared a common area, shared the latrine, but they had their own sleep area. And I remember opening the medicine cabinet, and it was a sign. It was a little sticky note that one of the suite mates put for the other one and said, "Stop stealing my stuff." And we would just laugh. I mean, you just open that and you're, going to inspect it and it says, "Stop stealing my stuff." We thought that
It
was the
happens.
most hilarious thing.
It
Oh my
happens.
goodness. So
Gotta
what are
do.
you doing now? What are your plans now that you are out of the military?
So, like I told you at the beginning, everything comes full circle. One
Mhm.
thing, growing up, I was very grateful that my uncles took me in with my grandmother, and I was raised in their home until before I joined the military. So before I left the military, or 7 months before I left the military, I left it in February of this year. Um, I got a call from my cousin that my aunt was very sick. My aunt has been battling cancer for about 16 years. So I made a promise that I was going to come and stay with her until her last days. My aunt passed away 3 weeks ago. Um, but I was able to keep that promise and just letting her know that, you know what, I did come back. Just like we always tell soldiers, we leave a fallen comrade behind.
Yeah.
Family's the same way. So I was glad that I was able to do that. Put a lot of job offers to the side because at this moment, family came first. So right now, since I haven't had a vacation, had anything, most likely go visit some special friends somewhere in Mississippi, most likely go to Colombia, go to Peru, because you also know that I love to cook. So I want to pick up some recipes, some dishes, and then Lord knows what happens. I do want to get back into the work field, work environment, but I think I'm just going to take probably a couple of more months off so I could gather my thoughts and just relax a little bit.
I think that is very notable that you are saying that, because a lot of us that are in the military, when we transition out, whether it's ETSing or retiring, a lot of soldiers or service members rather, and whatever branch you're in, jump right into the workforce and really don't take any time for themselves. I was talking to a gentleman today that I served with, just super stellar leader, and that's one of the things that he brought up. He was like, it's important to just take a step back and go ahead and take that time for
Yes.
yourself, travel, see the world, take a breather, and then figure out what you want to do. So Orlando, you have a passion for travel and cooking. And I'm going to tell you, I really appreciate you coming today to share this time. And we always have some pretty amazing talks. So I really appreciate the time that you have brought your time, giving your time to us today. And I want to thank you for your service. You are very a memorable leader. I've watched you with soldiers, and you have always taken care of them, and you have taken care of your leaders. So, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. And you know, you are by far one of the most amazing or greatest leaders that I have met in the formation as well. And you know that. I've seen you taking care of soldiers. I've seen you going out of your way. I've seen you, when the hammer was about to come down on certain people, you will put yourself in harm's way. That's what leaders do. I think people don't realize um, some of the things that happen in the military, but there are some amazing leaders. And sometimes we're the voice of the people that don't have a voice, and you are one of those great voices. And like I
Thank you
said,
so much. I really appreciate
you've
that.
helped me along the way. You have been my counselor. So along the way, even though you call me first sergeant and you are sergeant first class, you are an amazing individual to talk to, and never lose that light, no matter what you do. Because
Look, I'm supposed to be interviewing you. Listen, you know what? You better stop before you have me crying on here. Look, everyone, we're going to end the show before we get to a point where I am a waterfall over here. Orlando always does this to me.
she knows it's true. She knows it's true.
Listen, we're going to do a time. We're going to put a pin in it. Thank you so much, Orlando. Really, I really appreciate those words. You really needed to hear those today. So, but I'm going to let you go before I start crying.
Love you. Talk to you later.
Love you too. Thank you for your service. And thank you for continuing to serve.
Proud to serve. Thank you for your service.
All right, everyone. That is the end of our show today. Thank you so much for joining us here. And you have the information for all the guests that were here today. Thank you to all the veterans that have served. Thank you for your service. Thank you for continuing to hang on in there and supporting the communities. Please know that your service did not go unnoticed. I love you. And from Combat Boots to Red Bottoms, I'm Latisha Holmes, and I'm out.